Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 26 of the Spice Squadron podcast. That is 6 months of Spice Squadron.
That's nearly a baby.
That's 2/3 of a baby.
Babies are done in trimesters. We're nearly done gestating.
Welcome to the third trimester of Spice Squadron podcast.
Baby. Welcome back, Spices.
I don't like saying
or
that.
not. The jury's still out on that one. But this episode,
I like it.
we're doing the... Thank you, citizen. This episode, we're doing a tier list. We promised, we said New Year content, New Year, New Me.
We did.
And this year, it's all about tier list, tier list, tier list.
We're going back to 2003.
Where it's all tier list all the time.
I think it was later than 2003. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, it's probably later than that.
Later than
But this, we're doing our leaders. We've got all 16 Set 1 leaders revealed now, so we're going to cover off the leaders first, so super keen about that. Before we do that, we do have 4 spoilers, but we're going to cover 3 of them off because one of them is a leader that we're going to go through. Alrighty, shall we start off with...
I wonder if it's good.
I wonder... Ooh, you'll see. We'll start off with finally capping off the dual color cards.
Mm-hmm.
We
Last
have...
of the dual colors.
Yep, we and pretty much everyone else called it.
Everyone called it.
Yeah,
Literally
everyone called it. It's Saw Gerrera. Here he is. Saw Gerrera, extremist. He is a...
Because they couldn't put terrorist.
It's true. He is a 4-cost, 5/4 double aggression rebel.
And he has the ability, when your opponent plays an event, as an extra cost to play that event, they deal 2 damage to their base.
That is nice.
That is very nice.
You know what is more nice about this card? The 5/4 stat line.
It is a nice stat line.
Pong Krell is a 5/4, and that felt rough for 5, especially because his ability didn't have any immediate effect. However, yes, Saw Gerrera's ability doesn't have any immediate effect, but if I take down Pong Krell, nothing happens. If I take down Saw Gerrera, I take 2 damage.
Yep.
So, yeah, if someone's going to swing into Pong Krell and Saw, it's probably rough, but Saw coming out a turn earlier means you're probably going to trade more favorably against a 5-cost unit, against a 4-cost unit than you are against a 5-cost unit.
And that 5 damage is going to take out most units anyway. The only things that are sitting above that in the 5 costs are the things like the Seventh Sister and the Rourke.
But then they take damage down to 1 health, and it's kind of like, okay.
I mean, how many leaders could there possibly be that can ping 1 damage? Surely not 2.
2? 2 leaders that could ping 1?
Never mind.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
But overall, I think this is a nice payoff for the kind of Saw Gerrera, like his boys were all about having red units and doing raid, and it does fit that Saw's kind of just like deal direct damage, just burn. And I think that fits. You know, you got K2SO who's burned, For a Cause I Believe in who's burned. Now you've got Saw. He's shaping up to be a pretty nice mono red Cassian burn deck, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
And he works well with the partisans in the fact that, cool, I've got 2 tubes. Give Saw raid, make him a 7. I've got a partisan. I've got Saw out, which means my partisan's going to get raid 2, +2 attack. And if you want to try to remove either of them with an event, or, you know, your Asteroid Sanctuary down Saw or the partisan, well, you got to take 2 damage for that.
Yeah.
So I think one thing we've learnt in Star Wars Unlimited is unavoidable damage is incredibly powerful. And K2SO has taught us that lesson. So don't underestimate Saw, especially not at 4. 4 is really aggressively costly.
I think that mono red Sabine is really going to come in and be a really powerful force in that sort of way.
For sure.
But I think mono red Cassian is also going to be really interesting. We've already kind of had a bit fiddled with that. I know you have fiddled with that a little bit.
I like my Spacian deck. Yeah. I like it. I think this is a pretty interesting way to go with it. I like this quite a lot. It's been an interesting how the monocolors have panned out. I think that will probably be like our next tier list, is like reviewing maybe the monocolor cards, because they ended up actually panning out pretty interestingly. I thought green was going to be a lot better than it was, and I'd probably say it actually fell short compared to the other colors. It's
probably the worst of the bunch.
And they're all pretty great, which is I think the big thing.
And we said Vigilance was terrible, and Vigilance has become
incredible. It's probably the best one now, actually. Look at us.
Sometimes we're really good at predicting things, and sometimes
we're really bad at it.
Not.
And that's just because we're human. But I would rate Saw Gerrera another human. I'm going to give him it 3.5. I think this is great. I think double, like, I think the strictly 4 cost 5/4 is a great aggressively costed body, great unit, and unavoidable damage is so rough in this game because
We've got to get to those leaders. We're moving along.
Oh, yeah. We'll move on. Next up is the Ghost. Ghost is a 6 cost 5/5 transport, vehicle, spectre, rebel. The best keywords in the game.
It is a really cool. It has the ability on play and on attack. You may choose a spectre that you control and give it a shield.
It also has shielded.
I
love it. This was on my wish list.
Yeah.
I love specters. I'm glad that they got their home base, which is what its subtitle is, Spectre Home Base. That's really cool. And this adds a lot. This is great. This is pretty sweet. It's really thematic. It adds a lot to the Hera deck. It's really fun. I like it. I think that it's cool because on the turn it comes out, you can flip Hera, you can give Hera a shield, Hera can swing and give this a counter, and it all feels very synergistic and all feels very rebel. So it's a cool card.
Yeah, I think it kind of falls short when you try and put it in a deck that doesn't really run those rebels. The specters, sorry.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it does miss out on that shielding of the specters. But it still is a ship that is decently started with shielded.
It's only got one home, I think, and that is...
Yeah, I think you're going to struggle to fit this into like a mono turret deck.
Yeah. I think it's just a bit rough. Like, yeah, if you play it, it can come out and put a shield, but... And again, comparatively to the other 6 cost spaceship, that's like... I guess deck restricted, which is fire spray. I nearly said it's old, man. That's fire spray. This doesn't come in untapped.
Yeah.
But
it does come in shielded. There is a spot for it, but I think this is just entirely based around using that around.
Yeah, you have to use Hera, I think. So I'll give this card a 3. I think it's really great. I think it's powerful, but I think at the end of the day, it belongs in Hera, and in Hera it deserves a 3, but you can't really put it anywhere else. And finally, this one is our final green hero 1-drop. It's Bail Organa. Firstly, it's cool to see this character.
Yeah,
I really like Bail Organa. He's in the prequels, obviously. He's Leia's dad. He's mentioned in the in episode 4, and he gets blown up in episode 4.
Yeah.
On Alderaan. But he's also in the Kenobi series, which is pretty sweet. But he's a really cool character. He's great to see. He's a Clone Wars fan favorite as well. Overall, I think he kind of built up to be one of those characters where you're like, you don't think about him, then you see him, you go, Bail Organa.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's a 1-cost green hero 1/2.
And he has the ability very similar to the Dispatcher.
Yeah.
He's a tap. Give a friendly unit a experience counter.
Dispatcher, and much like Dispatcher, he suffers the same pitfalls.
Yeah, he's easy to remove.
Yep.
And very useless in certain situations. And I think Bail Organa is just useless in more situations.
Yeah, than Dispatcher is, because playing a unit is so valuable. Putting the experience counter means you have to play that unit and then get an action for either of those units to die, and then you have to hope that the experience counter goes. It's interesting. It's a cool card in concept, but I think in execution it maybe falls flat. Again, much like Dispatcher though, this card is pretty sweet in Luke.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting card to play with. I don't know what the ratios would be. I think that Dispatcher is kind of just taking that 1-drop place. You could fit maybe 2 of Bail as well, just so you always have, between that.
I mean, then you got R2-D2, though,
yeah,
which is tough because a 1/4 is sweet. I think if he was a 1/4, he'd be pretty good.
Oh, absolutely.
But
1/4 would be crazy.
I think he'd be crazy. I think he'd be pretty good because he still gets shoot first by a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
and 1/4s are pretty easy to deal with. We've found, but I just think that. He's a rebel as well. But I just think that in this instance, again, as you said, in more situations than not, he's just not as applicable. So I think that's kind of where it ends up being a bit rough for him.
Just too broken. Play it in, you're playing in Green Hero. You play the Dispatcher, you play Bail Organa. Next turn, You play Rebel Assault and you swing for 4. It's just broken.
Broken.
These aggro decks are just getting out of hand.
Out of hand.
And it's just ridiculous, really.
God damn it. God damn it. I give Bail Organa a 2.5 out of 5 on the Spiceometer. It's tier list time.
Oh, baby, it's tier list time.
So before we start, we are the Spice Squadron, and we have opinions. We're right about many things, we're wrong about a lot of things, and this tier list is purely just our opinions on the leaders. We, of course, will go through and explain them, why our opinions are this way, what the tier list is. But without further ado, drum roll, please. Tier list. Now, you might be looking at this and going, wow, I agree with this, or wow, I hate this. I sure hope they explain it, and we won't. Thanks for coming to episode 26 of the Spice. I'm just kidding. I will give you a moment to have a look at this, digest it, pause the video. We did mention the gameplay. We played the gameplay first to decide where some of these placings ended up being.
And they did change after the gameplay.
They did change after the gameplay. Shall we start at tier 4 and work our way up?
We absolutely should.
Because I feel like it's going to be like a horseshoe of no explanation needed.
Yeah.
No explanation needed. So starting off at the bottom, there he is. It's IG88, baby!
You can play IG88 and have a very fun time. Check out last week's gameplay video.
I played him in the pre-release last week, and I had a great time. But I think my biggest gripe with IG88, I have 2 gripes with him. My biggest is you need to have more units than your opponent. Not equal, more. And that is so rough sometimes, because your opponent can just have the equal amount of units on board, and you're an aggro deck with 1-drops, so it's harder to trade. Man, is it rough.
Yeah, I would love to see something like Greedo come into red.
I mean, I guess we've got Death Star Stormtrooper, but when it dies, it doesn't have that ping effect.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, in saying that, you can run Greedo.
Yeah, if you want the yellow. Like, obviously,
but
there are ways to play it, and this is a deck that can steal wins off you very easily.
Yeah, don't underestimate any deck in this list. Like
any deck in this list can the list can win games. But mainly the tiers are all about consistency. How often they're going to be winning over each other.
And I just think that it's interesting, right? Because in my opinion, he has a worse stat line than Sabine. Because he dies to open fire. He dies to echo-based defender.
The 5 damage is nothing to scoff at.
No, definitely not. But 5 damage isn't anything to scoff at, but then, being realistic about this on the flip side, I have an echo-based defender out, which is a meta-prevalent card. Even in Sealed, it's a common. So if you pull and build IG in Sealed, chances are people are going to have this. What do you do?
It's one of those rough situations. I think he's a rough leader to try and get around. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play when you do play him.
For sure.
But I think he belongs at the bottom of the tier. We're going to move on, because otherwise we're going to run out of time real quick smart. We're going to talk about Hera.
The main reason Hera's down here, and now we both actually really like Hera.
Oh yeah, I love Hera.
I love the Hera deck, but the problem is a number of reasons. Hera is the least versatile deck to build with in the game, because she really only functions if you're running the Spectre cards. And they're all great, but they are easy to play around, and you have to include them in her deck. And namely, you mentioned this, her front side.
Yeah,
she doesn't have an ability.
It's like, yes, she has an ability, but she doesn't have an ability that affects the game from a turn-to-turn basis.
Yeah, there's no
you can play
Kanan
in your mono-green deck,
yeah.
But there's nothing... And even on a flip side, she's really just a body that... It's just kind of a worst Harken on, ability. It affects uniques, but...
There are a lot of better decks than this, and this deck can steal wins. if you let the Spectres run away and then like attack pattern Delta in the mono green deck, it's so sweet. It's really fun and it works really well. But the problem is, I feel like this deck's kind of like you're taking cards and putting them in together, and then you're just kind of like, cool, yeah, I get all the Spectres, but they just feel less effective than if they ran them in another deck. So she's really fun. She's really thematic. I love Hera. I love all the Rebels. I love the Spectres, but I just think that she's the least versatile deck, and from a mechanically meta standpoint, it's pretty rough.
Moving on to Chewbacca, Walking Carpet. This has been at the bottom of people's tier lists for a very long time, and it's one of those decks where I feel like the people that put the effort in are going to get dividends from this and be able to beat decks of much higher tiers. But the problem is, a lot of the time, the one thing that it seems like he's designed to do, which is stall aggro, is the one thing that he can't do.
He always gets outplayed.
Yeah.
And one thing, interestingly, is he doesn't actually use his ability often. It's the same problem with Hera, where sometimes it feels like he just doesn't have an ability. And his flip side's incredible.
Oh, absolutely.
2/9 with grit and Sentinel's wildly good. You got to make it to 7.
Yeah, and the only way you're really making it 7, like 7 is big, but you can ramp to 7. It's like, well, then you're playing blue-green, and you just may as well go play Luke. And that's
Luke's so much.
I think the crux of the reason why Chewie is low is because anything he can do, Luke can do better.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up tier 4. Out of all those 3 leaders, I'm going to re-spice-ometer them. And these 3, I saved it all because they're all, in my opinion, they're all 1.5 out of 5. I like them. I love Hera. But from a standpoint of meta relevance, a lot of them aren't versatile or consistent enough to do what they need to do. Yeah. Moving on to tier 3. Iden.
Iden got a lot of popularity when she first came out as an aggro killer. I think aggro has now grown beyond her a little bit, and which is why she's dropped down below. I think most of the time, if you're running a villain deck, you're better off playing. And it's the same thing as Chewie, right? It's that same thing of
playing Krennic. I think what happened was Iden came out and everyone was like, new shiny leader that heals, and then people started playing and evolving it, and then they were like, well, Krennic just does this. He heals probably more consistently. He's got a way better body. He flips a turn earlier, and he buffs all my units to give them better breakpoints. Yeah. So he's just a better Iden. If someone flips a Krennic, I go, that's tough. If someone flips an Iden, man, takedown. I don't think I've really ever been scared to see an Iden flip against me. I just see it, and I'm like, minorly inconvenient.
Yeah, there's a lot that they can just kind of deal with Iden fairly easily. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, there's nothing that really brings her to be the blue villain card that I want to run.
So look, I give her a 2 out of 5 on the Spiceometer, I think there. Hans Olo.
What?
The next leader.
Next leader is Thrawn.
Oh wow! I moved up.
You moved up.
I moved up a tier. The rest of them just aren't worth talking. I'm kidding. Wow.
I really like Thrawn. I really like a green Thrawn ramp deck that I've built, and I really enjoy playing that deck, and I think that's a really fun deck to play.
But
it loses to lots of things.
It's one of my things. I said this to you when we started. I just think he does too much. He's very showy. I think that can throw a lot of people off. That you got to remember to look at the top cards of decks. You got to remember to tap one and reveal. And if someone starts drawing cards or something like a leader that perhaps pays 1 to draw a card, there couldn't possibly be any of those or 2 of those.
Ridiculous.
But it really throws off its game plan. And yeah, Thrawn's awesome with a 2/9 body. But a lot of the time when he gets out, it's kind of like, yes, Thrawn's here and it's over already.
Yeah. I think the problem with Thrawn is, he comes out with the 3/9 body, But like, if only he did something when he flipped.
He's got the strongest late game out of the ramp
If only he
decks.
was a big body that did something like.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh no, sorry. I was daydreaming about another leader.
A potential leader that could exist. An OP leader that exists. Thrawn, in my opinion, has the strongest late game plays of any ramp deck because he just has access to all the big uns. You got to get there, and getting there is the hardest part in this game. You got to deal with mid-range decks that outvalue and outpace you. Like maybe a leader that ramps better than you do and draws while it does it. Candyland. Well,
this is one of the really good examples of how this tier list. Yeah, we have to put cards in tier lists, but it's certainly not the be-all and end-all. This deck has actually a really good matchup against a lot of Vader decks, for instance.
That was a great matchup against my Vader deck.
Yeah, and against the blue-red Vader deck, this deck has a really good matchup against it. So, like, it's one of those things where you can be like, well, Vader's tier 1, his tier 3, that doesn't make any sense.
But Vader's more consistent is the problem. Yeah. Out of the decks that Vader beats and the decks that Thrawn beats, Vader wins that. So yeah, your Thrawn deck might beat my Vader deck 9 out of 10 times, but your Thrawn deck isn't beating the 5 other decks that my Vader beats 9 out of 10 times, which means if I'm in a competitive event, you're going to flow down and I'm going to go up, and we're not going to see each other.
And we do try to take these in a kind of a meta vacuum, because obviously if one deck is key, the deck that counters it is going to
go above. Which actually, we've joked about it so far, but he's up there for that reason.
Yeah.
So I'll give Thrawn a 2 out of 10 as well. I think he's really fun. I think he's really complex. I think he does justice to the character, but this tier list is meta. We're trying to take this from a competitive standpoint, and he's just not it. Next up,
Tarkin was really high when we first saw him and when we first started playing with him. And I think he's just slowly fallen since then.
It's because we've got more leaders and more cards, and it's evolved in a way where Tarkin, much like these, you'll notice a trend for probably the next tier as well down, is these leaders exist and they're awesome and fun, but if I'm going to play competitively in this color pairing, I'm probably better off doing it with another leader. For instance, a great deck to get your friends into the game with that's cheap, effective, and pretty good and can steal wins is Tarkin Troopers. But if you want to play Tarkin Troopers well, you play Vader Troopers. And then once you're done playing Vader Troopers, you just make Vader ramp. Because you've got all the pieces.
And I think that I'm going to make a call here. And it's going to be that Tarkin's flip side as a unit is the worst unit in any leader.
Wow.
I don't care.
I mean,
it's a 2/7 body, but I just don't.
No, I see
really
I see what you mean, because a lot of the time I'm happy to just swing into him and then take him down. At least Hera's a 4/6, right? Like, let's compare the two. They both put experience counters on units that will be in their deck. They're both restricted to that. One flips at 6 and is a 4/6. One flips at 5 and a 2/7. I'd rather Hera.
Yeah. And that's the kind of the crux of it. I think at the end of the day, if Tarkin was a higher statted leader and had more threat, obviously I understand that it's Tarkin. You make him a little bit lower power.
If he was a 4/6, it would be wild. But I think one thing to consider as well is, I know I just did
4/7.
The 4/6, please. Did the Hera comparison. He's more versatile in his deck building. There's a lot more Imperials than there are Spectres, which means you do have a pretty nice suite of deck. Just in general, there's a lot more Imperials than there are Spectres.
Hera gives XP to units.
Yeah, I know, but
Spectres.
But like if you're building Hera, you can Spectres. So that's why Tarkin's up there, and he's not the worst tier 3. Tarkin Troopers can really take it out, like sometimes, but it's just not good enough. I'd give him a 2.5 out of 5 on the Spiceometer. Next up is the Unkillable Man.
The Unkillable Man shirt, and I think this...
Chirrut or Wimbleware?
I think we've reached the point where these decks, we can no longer say they're stealing wins.
No.
And I think Chirrut is a deck that you have to have a game plan against.
Chirrut's annoying. Chirrut's really annoying to play against because if you're not in blue or in a color combination that can easily stack damage, it is a rough matchup. Because we're at the point now, so when we were making this tier list, I said tier 4 is one that you're happy to go 0-3 on and play your thematic decks you want to play. Tier 3 is one that can steal wins. You might go 1-1-2. Tier 2 can go 2-1 or 1-2 at your locals. Usually, I'm just using that because, usually locals you get 3 rounds just because of the amount of people. Could be different in your locals, but that's just where I'm going with it. But yeah, it can flip flop quite hard. And then like tier 1 is the same. It's more consistent on the 2-1 side, but you can still go 1-2. And then tier 0s, you're playing that if you're going to go 3-0. Chirrut is pretty sweet. On his front side, I feel he suffers similar to Chewie. He just sometimes his ability just isn't it. I just don't use it. But his flip side makes up for that. Oh my god, so much.
Yeah, his flip side is really cool.
Really good.
And as I said before, your opponent just has to have a game plan to kind of get around it.
Especially
Otherwise,
if you stack him up.
Yeah, it's going to run away with the game so
sabers,
easily.
Like lightsaber, put Infiltrator's skill on him so he's a saboteur now so you can't stop him.
Yeah.
The only way you're getting out there is if you're stacking damage on him. Like, Bamboozle is really good into him. Aggression, the card, is really good into him because you can remove the upgrades and stuff. But man, sure, it's one of those decks where like if you aren't ready for it, he's just got the health, and like he doesn't even not have the health. He just will. He just doesn't die.
Yeah.
And like you've got the luxury of flipping him, and then someone goes 5 into him, and you're like whatever, just put a lightsaber on him later. Yeah. Now he does die to takedown. Of course, much like every leader, he does to stuff like Power of the Dark Side. But he had to, yeah. Like, if he didn't die to takedown, it'd be a bit much.
Yeah, and I think that's like I think Chirruts are going to be a really fun deck and a deck that you're going to come across in locals or at a tournament. I think Chirrut's going to be one of the scariest decks to come across, and that like first 2 rounds of a big tournament, and just be like, oh, what's my Chirrut answer in this deck? What's my like?
And then you stumped. Imagine playing Sabine, and you just like you get a bad draw, and you're at Chirrut round 1, and you're like, I'll lose to Chirrut. Chirrut's cool. I like Chirrut, but I think his front side is lacking, and his back side is incredible, which is why he's bumped up to tier 2. He's the last in tier 2 because his front side is so rough, but his back side is so incredible. So incredible.
No, I'm talking about...
Hold on. I give him a 2.5 out of 5 on Spiceometer. This guy doesn't respect the Spiceometer. Make sure he does in the comments below.
We have the 2 yellow hero leaders, Jin and Han.
They're just weird.
And I think...
They just sit in a weird place.
I don't want to agree with it, but I kind of do. Yellow hero is the worst color combination. It has good cards, but people just take those good cards and put them in other decks.
In terms of heroes.
Yes, that's what I said. Yeah. Yellow hero is the worst color.
Yellow hero heroes. Like the leaders. Oh. Yellow hero leaders.
Nope, just units in general.
Oh, that's rough. Because you're right. You could just... If I'm playing
You're gonna throw
yellow...
that Vanguard Ace in your deck?
Who? Exactly.
And honestly, I think that is one of the biggest reasons why these 2 decks, are not higher. And I think both of these leaders, to me, are very good leaders that can do very interesting things.
And yellow has a lot of really good generic cards.
Yes.
The problem is, yellow hero cards and yellow general cards are better utilized in the 2 top decks up here in S tier rather than, the
actual
yellow hero decks.
Heroes.
Yeah. So it is a bit rough.
And both of them function... They do their thing differently. Han is obviously a kind of pseudo-rampy, get things out a little bit earlier than you want to. He's a value deck. Yeah. Whereas Jin kills her value by being better at trades.
It's different kinds of value, where for Han you sacrifice hand advantage to get out. units earlier to get ahead, whereas Jin is a slow burn attrition mid-range deck where she trades up in value. So they both have the same stat line, and they both flip at the same time. But
they're the same stat line? I thought Han was a 4-6.
Oh, he might be a 4-6.
And Jin is a 4-7.
4-7. Okay, my bad. Han is an interesting deck because you play him and he's good. He's like pretty good to just sit down and be like, okay, I can do moderately well because I'm getting out value. I'm getting out value units. But he brick walls really hard. Yeah. Like he'll hit. You'll just get to the point at locals or in a tournament where you'll just hit the point where you're like, all right, I've done all I can.
Yeah.
And I think Jin also kind of does hit that point too. I think if I'm gonna do it, I think Han is a pretty nice. Han's the yellow hero deck that you complement with like green and things like that to get a nice mid-rangey flowy deck. Jin is the mono yellow hero deck if you're gonna play it because she has access, and she's probably the closest thing we currently have to a hand discard deck. Which
not that there is much of it, but
yeah, which spoiler alert is really not great in this game.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not until we get Padme.
I'm here.
I'm praying. Look, you know what? I have no idea what she's going to be, but come back to this in Twilight Republic when we had a yellow Padme hand discard leader. But I think that kind of covers off both of them. They're there because they're not awful, but they're not great. So they literally are just both the middle of the road decks where, yep, play them. You're probably you might do pretty great, and other times you might just brick wall and hit the decks you can't beat. And it is what it is because you're going to probably be better than the other decks that, you might win the first one, lose the second one, and you'll probably win the third one because you're just going up against the people who lost the first one or two. I reckon they taper out nicely. They just don't have what it takes to get above it. So I'm going to give them both 2.5 out of 5. I think they both sit pretty nicely. Now this one is interesting because he's just not scraping it. I love Cassian, and he's so close to the point where, sometimes he actually does jump into tier 1, but he's just not there. He's just not there. And it's literally just not there.
And I think this is conveyed mostly by, we have a friend that has played a lot of green-red Cassian.
Yeah.
And reached a point where he just kind of went, why? I just can't get over some of these decks. And it was just because...
And he plays the game really well. He's been playing for a while. He's built Cassian. Green-red Cassian's like his baby. And there are a lot of... the main reason Cassian is there is much the same reason that Han and Jin are there, is because he'll win games. There are just decks that cannot beat his Cassian deck. They just can't. I'll sit down and play a deck. I'll play Mono Yellow Jin into it and just lose. That's it. I can't beat it. There's nothing I can do against it. And even some of the other decks above it can do that too. But the problem is, it dips too hard in the, instead of beating those top decks 50-50, it's 70-30, and that's just not good enough.
70% loss.
70% loss, 30% win, which is just not good enough, unfortunately. And I love Cassian. I think the leader's really fun. I think mono red Cassian's pretty sweet, but at that point, I'm kind of just just play Sabine. So
I think with the addition of Saw, mono red Cassian definitely has its deck to kind of work with.
I think the best version of Cassian though is that mid-range green-red Cassian, because it flexes really easy to aggro when it needs to, and it flexes really back to that slow burn deck. And I think it does that a lot better than the layer deck up there. But I think the layer deck is just more explosive. Because I think she commits to aggro harder, which can be rough and doesn't always get you there. But it's just too explosive. So I love Cassian. I think the deck is pretty solid, and I think if you take green-red Cassian, you are on the closer to going to one side than the other leaders in this set. But I just think that it actually is really upsetting. He's just out.
Yeah.
So honestly, I give Cassian a 3 out of 5 on the Spiceometer. I love him. I think he's pretty sweet.
Moving on to
Big Kren.
the tier 1.
Yeah, here they are.
And he scraped into tier 1.
Yeah.
I think Krennic is the most kind of scraped into tier 1. I think he's been played. We've seen him played a lot. I haven't really built around him since I built mono blue Krennic a while ago, and I haven't come back to that yet.
I've played blue green Krennic every now and again. I haven't in a while, but I know what it's about, and it's what it's about is good.
Yeah, it does a good job in what it wants to do, and I think blue villain is a really strong color.
Oh,
and I think I would really like something like a Vader or a Luke in blue villain, like those kind of bigger leaders. Whereas right now we only have like Iden 6, but it's just still a 4/4. Like I think I would have loved a blue villain unit like leader that is bulky, and I think that would have really helped.
There he is.
I certainly could play in blue.
He certainly could. He's better in yellow, I think. But
we'll talk about that when we get to it.
But Krennic's interesting. He's a deck that wants to really attrition and outvalue the game in the most incremental incidences. That restore 2 here and there. Yeah. That 1 extra damage here and there. Really make or breaks it. And again, this deck is a pretty solid one where, yes, you're leaning more on the 2/1 side, but then when you start getting to those tier 1, tier 0 decks, again, just like Cassian, he just gets bonked down.
But I definitely think that he
has
has
chance.
that. Yeah, I think he definitely has that slightly better chance.
I think Krennic kind of is just one of those decks where he is so middle of the road that he out middle of the roads the other ones.
Yeah.
And he just kind of bumps himself up a little bit by doing that. So I'm going to give Krennic a 3 out of 5, middle of the road.
Fantastic.
A lot of you out there will now see this next leader and go, Spy Squadron, you guys are nuts. Why the hell is this guy here? And to that we say, Green Red Inquisitor is actually incredible.
So, Grand Inquisitor is my baby. And I very much like Grand Inquisitor, and I love what he does. I think that with the deck that we've built, with the green-red, he's very good. I think he's also very good in a more aggro-centric yellow-red combination. It does work quite well, but I think the green-red is just a better deck overall.
The green-red has a lot of tricks. And I think the biggest thing with Grand Inquisitor, and I'm sorry to say it, but I'm just going to say it, he is so good, and right now people just suck at sequencing and aren't able to unlock the full potential of this leader. You play this leader enough, and you understand the sequencing of how this deck goes, and I'll say it for this big man up here too, he's the same. This deck is incredible. This deck is incredible. You need to be able to sequence your plays right to be able to have this deck go incredible. So I would say both these decks are kind of big brain decks where you'll sit down against Green-Red Grand Inquisitor and go, ha! Grand Inquisitor, this sucks! And then you will lose. And you will have started to lose when Fifth Brother came out turn 2. That was the end of your game. And you just have to sit there and watch as he triple swings Rook into your board and kills it. As he plays a Seventh Sister and starts swinging into your board and starts killing everything. And you sit there and you go, where did I go wrong? And you went wrong when you sat down and went, ha ha ha, Grand Inquisitor, because you just get taken out.
I admit that maybe this card is a little bit high because of my love for it. I think it definitely is a lot stronger than people give it credit for.
I was skeptical though, because I think to balance that out, he was one of those leaders where I was like, James was like, I love this leader so much. And I was like, yeah, I think he's got potential. Maybe we can make it work. But I told you, I was like, it's probably not going to be set 1. I remember we sat down and we had a conversation and I was like, Twilight of the Republic, this man's coming in because Force. We're going to get more Dark Side Force units. Yeah. And I was like, not in set 1, probably not in set 2. And I was wrong. Because I think that the green-red deck is really, really good. Like, decks like green Luke, red Luke, and mono blue Luke are really strong. and this beats them pretty consistently. The problem is it doesn't really beat through the top 4 and the next guy. It has a really hard time against the big fella, I think.
I think it's pretty even against the next fella.
Yeah,
I think when we've
I
played
think
that
that's
matchup, I think it's quite even
yeah,
between
and I think
them.
that's the thing. But the thing is, I think Luke's versatility outweighs Vader. So with Grand Inquisitor, I give him a 3.5 out of 5. I genuinely will say to everyone there, please do not underestimate this leader. This leader is a genuinely good leader, and I thought it was going to be pretty bad in set 1 too, and I was wrong. This next leader, let's just take a moment. These next 2 leaders, starter deck leaders rarely ever in any card game that we've seen really hit the strides of meta, because the inset things are just better to promote purchasing of like the inset.
And also the case of usually the starter decks are very simple to get people into the game, so they're usually less.
Yeah.
And that usually means they're lower in power level, just so they're not doing crazy things.
Yes, but these leaders do crazy things. They do.
They do some
and they are
crazy things.
Some of the best bodies in the game, with some of the best support in the game, and they are my favorite part. So easy to access. Buy a starter deck, go to a pre-release. Ask your friends who have been to 4 pre-releases and go, can I have one of your foil alt art swole Lukes and red choky Vaders? And I go, take them, please. Get them out of my folder. So these leaders are great. They are so versatile. Their abilities are so usable. And they're so easy to obtain. Vader is my child. I think my blue-red Vader deck is the deck that I've worked the hardest on, and I've painstakingly crafted
I think really both of these are your kind of child. You kind of
Mono Blue Luke.
like Mono Blue Luke. I kind of brought to the table initially, and then
him.
you just kind of took him and like made him your own thing.
And boy howdy, do I love that. I love Blue Luke. So blue-red Vader, in my opinion, is a deck that I think has the strongest removal options in the game. Yeah, you don't have overwhelming barrage, but you don't need it, because if you are playing Vader right, and that's a big if, because I played this deck a lot, so I do know the ins and outs of it, and I've given this deck to a few people to try a couple of times, and they've won most of the games, but they've lost here and there. A lot of the time it's because I know what they were going to go for, and I'm able to exploit that. But you have so much removal, and if you're playing it right, you just win. I play this, it's dead. I play this, it's dead. And then you start incrementally increasing your resources to the point where for the first couple of turns, you're just killing stuff, and you're happy with that because you're killing stuff and pinging things. And then incrementally as you go, you're getting out Delmirkos, you're getting out Viper Probe droids, you're getting out Dooku's. And then you hit the late game where your removal is your cards. You're playing Avengers if you run them. You're playing Palpatines. You're flipping your leader. And by that point, there's nothing your opponent can do, because they then have to fight through your leader, which is an incredible leader, like a 5/8 that pings is ridiculous, and you have to deal with the removal. And that's just my deck. Let's move away from the deck that I love. To use a better example, Ramp Vader has been here since, I think, the very beginning.
Very early on.
The deck that you buy this in is literally green-red with Death Star DJ.
Yep.
It like, you can pick this up, buy a couple more singles. Hell, just buy resupplies, and then put them in, and you've got Ramp Vader, and that deck is great. So like, whilst there are some people who out there might be saying, Blue-Red Vader's not as good as Reese thinks, heresy. But pose it to you this way. Ramp Vader's so good. And Ramp Vader's consistent. And Ramp Vader is incredibly powerful because of that. Getting that leader out just wins you the game. Put a saber on him. Eat that.
Yeah. And Luke is the most versatile leader in the game.
So, any color. He works with every color.
Every single color. Mono blue Luke, fantastic. Red Luke,
great.
Fantastic.
Green
Luke, fantastic. Yellow Luke, pretty damn good.
Yeah. I'd rate Yellow Luke in tier 2, and the rest of them, I'd put them all tier 1, if not some of those tier 0.
Like, they're like, no matter what color pairing you put Luke with, he shines.
I do personally think that Mono Blue is the best. out of them. And
Valid.
the reason I think that is because...
Mill,
you heard it here first. Is because Protector's great to make early game Sentinels with like cards like R2-D2. Guardian of the Wheels, man. Turn 1 Guardian into against Sabine, and then turn 2 Lightsaber Protector. Just get it. Like literally eat that. And then they just have to look at you and be like, how do I deal with this? And you just go, you don't, pal. And then you get arcs out, put shields on them, and then you're slowly building up that value. And my God, does that deck just out heal? When you get that engine going, your opponent can't stop you. You can out heal any damage they throw at you.
Throw the Bendu in there, and you're
And
like,
he's 4/7
Sentinel.
Ugh, why
Deal
did he have to
with
be
it.
Sentinel? And then you just go, and a lightsaber and his force.
Yeah.
So putting a lightsaber on him normally would be disgusting. But he's force, so he gets the benefit too.
Oh, there's like that deck is really, really fun and really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it's very, very good.
Not to mention shenanigans with Luke, like early game force throws if you're red Luke, having access to, open fires, all that kind of good stuff. And the green Luke, having access to Dispatcher, Bail Organa now, I guess. I run Overwhelming Barrage in my Green Luke deck because I'm happy to pay 7 for that to just nuke the board. Like, give my 7-cost Luke +2/+2 and kill everything, and then swing in for 8, heal 3. Like, Luke is so versatile to the point where I could talk about all 3 of those decks so much. Just so much. To the point where it just is like try and stop me. So I would give both of these leaders a 4.5 out of 5 on the Spiceometer.
Even if you're Overwhelming Barrage or Luke, dealing 8 damage, he can't kill Palpatine.
He can't kill Palpatine. Now, some of you might see this big fella, and we've been joking about it, but this is the best mid-range deck in the game. This is the best mid-range deck in the game because it outvalues your opponent by using their own damn value against them.
So we've reached tier 0, and you might be saying there's too many leaders in tier 0, which is understandable.
And you'd be wrong.
Which is understandable. But the way we're currently seeing it, and I want to be clear, me and Reese have not tested Boba much. We are aware that Boba...
I actually have tested Green Yellow Boba quite a lot recently.
Never mind.
I've not tested Red Boba a lot, which my prevailing theory is the best Boba deck out of the variants. I think Green Boba's super sweet, but I think Red Boba's pretty gross. I think with these tier 0 decks, for those who are uncommon for TCGs, and I know there are actually a lot of you out there because a lot of you moving from CCGs and things like that, TCGs have an interesting element where not everyone has access to all the cards and things like that. So there is an element of abundance, I guess, out there. But usually TCGs fall into paper, scissors, rock a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And in this instance, it's your mid-range Boba deck beats your Sabine or Leia's by outvaluing them early game and controlling them just well enough for it to make it to the late game where it just wins. Your Sabine and Leia decks beat your Palpatine decks because Palpatine can't outvalue you early game. And then Palpatine just beats Boba because by the time Boba's trying to do its thing, you're not playing units or doing anything for Boba to get any value out of. And if you are, you're killing the units.
All your fire sprays belong to us.
And then you flip. So let's talk about Palpatine because we haven't yet.
Yep.
He's our last leader.
Mm-hmm.
You called it, everybody. Everyone called it.
Everyone called it.
He is a green villain. His front side says, action, pay 1, tap him. Defeat a unit you control. Defeat a friendly unit. You may, if you do, draw 1 card and deal 1 damage to a unit. Vader's ability and Cassian's ability. And yes, you have to sacrifice a unit. And I think people out there might be going, why would I want to do that? Please firstly go watch the gameplay.
I think the gameplay shows very well how well this
Because
leader deals with mid-range decks.
That green-red Inquisitor deck is as good as we say it is. And to prove that to you, Palpatine is as good as we're saying it is right now. Because when Palpatine came out, I sat down with my friend who's played Cassian pretty consistently, and he's pretty solidly, he's pretty good at the game now. And he was like, okay, we'll run the gauntlet with Palp. I gave him my Vader, I gave him Luke, I gave him Ramp Vader. He played the Green Red Inquisitor deck. And Palpatine I just didn't lose. We played like probably a good 12 games, 3 each with those decks. I just didn't lose. I just couldn't, because every time they would do something, I'd just outvalue them. I'd either kill my stuff and ramp too quickly. I'd never run out of cards in hand. The pings here and there, just like Vader, grant incremental value in a way that is wildly valuable. And then by the time my opponent finally plays that one unit that they want to win the game, Palpatine is a leader that deploys at 8 resources. And when he does, he says, when you deploy, take control of a damaged non-leader unit for free. Then when you attack, you may defeat one of your friendly units. If you do, you may draw a card and deal 1 damage to a unit. And his body, he is a 4/10. He is overstated, and his ability is incredible. I can't explain until you've played it, but I can't explain how soul-crushingly powerful taking someone's Luke Skywalker is.
Yeah.
Because
kill something, ping it for 1, let it swing into something and have some damage on it, swing something into it. It's so easy to just get some damage on it and just take control for free. It's it is both removal and gaining a unit for free. It cannot be understated how good it is.
Most of the units and cards in the deck are green, but utilizing a lot of the yellow villain stuff, No Good to Me Dead, Asteroid Sanctuary, Shoot First, 7th Fleet, and ISB Agent and Bosk, namely, allow you to get value and control the early game against aggro the best you can. 2 of the best cards in the game. 2 of them. Yadu Conversion Complex and Overwhelming Barrage. This leader single-handedly beats them. You will play a unit, and this deck can remove units you've got by trading. It can steal units with Treacherous. If you're running yellow and waylays, you can bounce them. So it pretty consistently beats out the early game for other mid-range and control decks, to the point where you finally get a unit out. And you flip and steal it. No Overwhelming Barrage for you. You finally ambush in a unit in a way that feels meaningful and good.
Yep.
And they flip Palpatine and steal him. And you just played right into their hands because you ambushed your unit in and let it take damage without the Palpatine leader having to jump through hoops to do it. Motti in this deck. Motti doesn't go in a lot of decks. But Motti in this deck is disgusting because you can swing with Palpatine, kill it, draw a card, and untap Palpatine, untap another unit you've got. Villain is very prevalent in the meta. Look at tiers 1 and 2, and you've got 5 villain leaders versus the 3 hero leaders, in tiers 0 and 1. That's pretty whack. That's a lot of villain, which means you're going to be... you've got a lot of options to steal, you've got a lot of options to untap with Motti. And even during the mid-game, where you're just like, pay 1, kill Motti, draw a card, untap my Shore Trooper, swing for 8 in 1 turn because I swung with it beforehand. An Emperor's Royal Guard goes in this deck.
Yeah.
And it's better than I think.
And it's a 3/5 always.
That's better. The Emperor's Royal Guard's been out for a while. Emperor's Royal Guard was the card that teased this card.
Yeah.
It's better than I thought.
Yeah.
Being a 3/5 is better than I thought. So there is a lot I can say about Palpatine. This deck is incredibly fun to play. It's not fun for your opponent to play against. It is a very tough deck to beat if you're a mid-range deck, which most decks in Star Wars Unlimited, from here down, from tier 1 down, are mid-range or control decks. Not a lot of them are aggro.
But we're going to move on to the deck that does beat it quite consistently.
I will give Palp a 4.5 out of 5.
Go to the deck that does beat Palp quite consistently. Yeah. I built this deck recently, and it has not lost. It has not lost a single game. It's versed multiple opponents.
Classic.
And it has not lost a game, and that is Sabine Wren. And this is a deck that I gave someone who was brand new to the game.
They'd never played. They'd played, literally never played Star Wars before. The only game they'd played is a couple of games with Magic.
And they destroyed. It was not close. And this deck is wildly aggressive. This deck is wildly quick, and this deck is wildly.
And we all know it. We all know it. And before we continue, I will say we'll quickly talk about Leia, because a lot of the same points can be made.
Mm-hmm.
Leia and Sabine are very similar. They function very much the same. Leia, I would say, is pretty great if you build a yellow-green. I'd say she probably slots at the low end of tier 1, high end of tier 2. She's fine. Red green Leia is incredible. The red green Leia, I think the difference between the two is Sabine's flow of damage is more consistent and Leia's is more explosive.
Yeah.
So Leia sticks around longer than Sabine does when she flips, and she can have those explosive crazy turns where she hits double, but Sabine takes it out of the park by being more consistent. That's really all I can say about Leia. I'll also give her 4.5 out of 5 because a lot of the same points will be made with Sabine. But Sabine, as we said, is one of those decks where you can be new and sit down and play the deck and win, and that is more to do with the deck than it is as a player. Now, if you're a good player and you pilot Sabine, you're going to rarely lose, I'll be honest.
I think most recently the card that has taken this deck to the next level is, weirdly enough, a green card. Rebel Assault. This card has taken Sabine to the next level. If you are not running Rebel Assault in your Sabine deck,
trust us, put it in as a 2-of, try it in a couple games, and you'll see that, oh my god, in there have been games, let's do it this way. Sabine players, how many times in a game where you've gone, I can just win this turn if I could just attack with both of them, and then your opponent skirts in there and they kill one of your units, and maybe the game doesn't result in a loss, probably still results in a win, but it goes longer, and you get that point where you're like, now I'm stressing, because I'm probably going to win this still, but I still need to be on top of my game, I still need to make sure I'm winning it. Now you've got that card. You've got that card at turn 2. Pay 3 for it. Who cares if it's 3? Just pay the 3, swing with your wing-leaded A-wing and your fleet lieutenant that you played last turn to swing for 7 into their base. And then just look at your opponent and go, good game? Because that's what it is. The action cheating of the double attack is great. Giving them extra damage is phenomenal. Yeah. Being able to do that in a deck that consistently burns your opponent down and wants them dead by turn 4 is ridiculous.
It is an incredible deck that is going to be the staple of aggro. I don't even think just for set 1,
I think set 2.
Through set 2 and possibly through set 3 as well.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the aggro leader. And by no means, you're not a bad person if you play Sabine. I want to make that very clear. It's an incredible deck. If you're new and you want to just win games, man, pick up Sabine. It's cheap as chips too.
One thing about Sabine, so fun.
It's also fun.
So
aggro
fun
decks
to
are
play.
really fun. Now, one thing I will say about the aggro is for this, and you will see this in a lot of card games. Aggro is ever present. Sabine will never not be tier 0, but she might fall to the low end of it when people start realizing, or she might fall to tier 1, high tier 1, but she'll never ever go below that for the first little while. But as metas progress, they evolve. And it's natural. And we've seen that. If you watch all the videos on the channel, if you've been a loyal viewer, if you just paid attention to the community as a whole, you'll see that the metas evolve pretty well. Once people realize how to beat aggro, it does tend to fall off a little bit. And it's always there. You'll never see a card game where someone builds a deck and goes, don't have to worry about aggro, because you do. It's always there. Always. Make sure you've always got your counters in place for it, because it's there. Be afraid of it always. But it does slow down, and it does become a deck that's more beatable as time goes on, because people find out ways to beat it and get past it. But I do think in maybe set 1 overall and potentially set 2, it is probably going to be there for a little while. Hopefully we do see it fall off a bit and we can get some more variance in the meta. But it's definitely a deck that's going to be there. And even if Sabine falls off a bit, she's still going to be ever-present and something you should pay attention to. Sabine is a 5 out of 5 on the Spiceometer.
Moves on to our last
Here he is.
leader. It's Boba Fett.
The
It's
second
been
most
Boba Fett
versatile leader in the game.
since forever.
Since he came out.
Since he came out. Like, and he came out early.
He was like one of the first leaders to be... I think because it was Vader... it was Luke, Vader, Chewie, Krennic, Leia, and then I think it was like Tarkin and Boba.
Tarkin and Boba, yeah. Or something along those lines.
Or something along those lines. So he was out real early because there was a point where they released a bunch of leaders and then FFG took a break, started to show off more of the set because there's 252 cards, and then we started getting our weekly leader reveals again. And
by the time this comes out, we will know all 252 cards.
That's so exciting. I'm so excited. Fingers crossed. But Boba's great. Red Boba is incredible. I actually think Red Boba is the best variant because I think it can beat out... Like, it's tough, right? Because Green Boba is so good. Green Boba is so good.
I still think Green Boba is the best Boba deck. I think it just has the versatility. I think it has the power. I think the addition of the 5-cost overwhelm when this card attacks, give another unit +2/+2.
Oh, yeah.
I think the addition of that with the Yaru complex.
I forgot about that. That's actually wild, making Boba like a 6/8 for the
6/9.
6/9, and then like what?
This is a 4/7,
you're
remember?
right. He's oh my god, he's the most overstated leader in the game.
Yeah, and that shows.
Even more than Palpatine.
And just his ability to cheat resources is huge, and I think that's good. I think Boba... I am going to say Boba will not drop below tier 1 for the first year of Swoop.
I can see that. I can see that. Especially if we get more... Especially because set 2 is Outer Rim Underworld. This guy's an Underworld bounty hunter. And set 2 is going to be like bounty hunters and Underworld.
Yeah. I think
so he's just getting support set 2. He's a fan favorite character and they did him justice.
Absolutely.
I'll say that much. He's so cool.
I'm very excited for the showcase.
Oh my god. Dude, don't even do it. But we said, I think you said this. We saw Boba. Boba came out and you went, well, that's going to be the best leader in the game. And I went, why? And you went, his simple, easy ability. God damn. It's true. His ability is so simple, and in its simplicity, it lends to the most incredible value this game has to offer. Yeah. Untapping resources, play extension, being able to control the board with that play extension. Boba Fett is the truest control deck the game has because it's got a strong leader that can beat out your opponents, build it yellow, build it mono yellow, and you'll be bouncing things for days. Build it red yellow, and you'll be pewing things down with your open fires and your force chokes till the cows come home. Build it green yellow, and you'll be ambushing in unit after unit and pounding your opponent's board while getting value. Maybe you're right. I think I like red Boba a lot. I think it's pretty powerful, but the fact that yellow-green Boba has so much ambush potential to clear the board is wild. Yeah. And then in all of those decks, Fett's Fire Spray as a finisher is ever present, and it is an incredible, if not the best finisher in the game. Yeah. Boba is for sure a 5 out of 5 on the Spiceometer. That's really our tier list and our opinions. It's pretty set. We spent quite a lot of time talking about this before the episode. We literally had to play gameplay beforehand so we could figure out where these leaders sit. And genuinely, we've both tested these leaders between the both of us pretty strenuously. For the last week, I've pretty much only played Palpatine.
Yeah.
Against a lot of decks and a lot of different opponents. That is why he's there. That's not just like he's just come out, he's so crazy. My initial thoughts were that he was bad. I was like, killing your own unit seems rough. If you didn't have to pay 1 for that, he'd be the best leader in the game.
He might still be.
He might still be. If I actually think that Palpatine can beat Boba Green so easily and so consistently after my testing, that if Sabine drops off, it's going to be the how do we beat Palpatine game.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, want to reiterate, this is our opinion.
This is just opinions.
The game isn't out
yeah,
yet.
no. And
there will be changes. We will find things. Other people will find things and we'll go, oh, you're so right.
You're so smart.
What?
That's happened so many times already.
Yeah.
And we love it. We love you guys. We love this community. We're so excited. So many smart, intelligent individuals in the community already making their way through it, finding out cool things. A lot of other cool content creators. Make sure you go check them out, like Late Night Gaming, Garbage Rollers, Golden Dice, Town Number 9 streams. All go check them out. Like, go check them all out. They're all fantastic, and they all have different and they all have different opinions, and they're all just as important as ours. And because the way the Garbage Rollers rank stuff is different from how we rank stuff. But both of our insights are just as important as each other. They've got some really great takes about a lot of leaders that I find really valuable, and so does everyone else out there. And that's the same with everyone, that all these things are subject to change because of how fantastic card games are. They change, so much awesome nuance and play. So I think, and you'll get coverage from it. We'll be doing meta coverage, large-scale tournaments, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be covering it here on the Spy Squadron. I told you, new year, new content. This is just the beginning. So let us know down below what you think. We would both genuinely really like it if you guys comment, because we'd love to see it. It's great for interaction. And honestly, I would love to have conversations with you guys about it.
Tell us why you think Han Solo is tier 0. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know why IG-88 there should be a 5th tier. But if you haven't already, go check out the gameplay.
We are unfortunately running out of time.
Yeah.
So we will call it here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
We'll see you next episode.